Welcome to Focal Point. My name is Carla Green. I am the director of the Kansas City, Kansas Community College's Regional Prevention Center, and I'm here today with Lesley Monarres.
Yes.
And Lesley is a member of our Student Senate here on campus, and she's going to talk to us today a little bit about what being involved in Student Senate means for her and how that can benefit other students. So welcome, Lesley.
Well, hi. What does Student Senate mean to me?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, it is like my second life. You know, I joke many times because I say that our school is actually like our second home because we are here so much because of Student Senate. Everything we do is to make us better people. Like, we have Student Senate meetings every Wednesday, and what we do is that we get all the organizations from the campus, which would include like SOL or TESU or a SIFE or all those.
Tell me what those things are.
Okay, SOL is Students of Latinos. TESU would be African Americans. SIFE, entrepreneurs. And everyone has their own organization that stands for different things depending on what they're passionate about. And we all get together every other week and we kind of just say what's going on in our parts of the campus. And what the Student Senate does, or what I'm involved with, is leading all those groups together, leading them, or their budgets. We're in charge of their budgets, funding them, in charge of doing events for the college. Like, some of them are silly, like St. Patrick's Day, or
it's not silly. It's a way for everyone to get together.
But yes, it's a really nice way, and it takes a lot of planning. You wouldn't think they do, but they do. We also try to, one of the main things about Student Senate is allowing students to have a voice, not necessarily always a say, but a voice at least for the students.
Now, I've heard other members from other student organizations talk about students having a voice. What does that mean? Because like you said, it's not necessarily you voice your opinion and so things are going to go your way.
Exactly.
What does that mean?
You know, I think for most people, it's not about having to change something necessarily. It's just knowing or putting it out there that something may be wrong when they don't know about it. Like, just recently, we had the student housing, and we had a couple of students that kept complaining about the Wi-Fi, but they just complained and they figured that their voice doesn't count for anything. And so after a couple of complaints, I was like, well, what's going on? What's going on with the Wi-Fi, And then they told me, and I'm like, well, maybe they're not even aware that something is going on. Like, that's what I mean by the voice, just having someone aware of what is going on when they might not necessarily know. And sure enough, as soon as, we had that voice put out there, things were changed. Not always is that the case, because sometimes things are set for a reason and they're not supposed to change for a reason. But at least the fact that we know that if something is wrong, we will be heard to an extent.
Okay. And so with Student Senate, if as a student I have a complaint such as the Wi-Fi, it's doubtful that I will know exactly who I need to take that complaint to. And so is that something then in that situation that you would have helped with, because you have those connections on campus?
Yes, and exactly. And that's what our meetings do when we get together. At the end, we have an open discussion moment. And anyone can say anything. I mean, anything they have in their mind or something that they don't think is going around with the campus. We've had lots of complaints which we've already addressed. Things that you wouldn't think, like bike rides. They were complaining about bike rides. And so they don't necessarily know who to go to, or if they do, they don't think they will be heard. So that's when they go to us, and we go ahead and in a period about a week or two, we try to do our best to come back and give them options of what we can do or what we can't and why we're limited or not. And I think that's really what the students want to know, that they're not being ignored, but something is being done about their questions or their complaints or their suggestions.
So with the meetings that Student Senate has, and you meet, is it every 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you meet, do representatives of the other organizations, the other student organizations on campus, are they required to come to those meetings? Is it optional?
No, it is required.
And what's the reason for that?
The reason for that is because they are under our umbrella. I mean, if they want to be their own organization and club and the college, we have nothing against that. But as soon as they want to be part of Student Senate, we start funding them, which is a very big thing because, money is a big thing.
That's right.
And they all want it. And we were pretty much giving it away with them, and we have no problem with that. However, if they want to be part of us, we do ask to be part of us, which includes the main reason we have a student senate is so that all the students might get together and know what's going on around the campus, to be able to connect and network. And so if they're not coming to the meetings, they're not networking, they're not knowing what's going on, they're not going to know that TSU has an event and they're having a bake sale and trying to fundraise. They're not going to know that if they don't go to the meetings, which is why it's required to know what's going around all around campus and not just in your organization.
Okay. Is there a sense of accountability also? Because I would think, for example, if I'm a member of a student organization, when I come to the Student Senate meeting and maybe I'm sharing about an activity that we have coming up that's something that might be in violation of college policy, is that then your opportunity to say, oh, wait a minute?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, usually the organizations are pretty good about that. For example, when they fundraise, they have to go with us before they go ahead and announce it, and they have to bring out a request form, and we have to, make sure it's fine. Anything they do, usually we're aware of it before they announce it, unless it's something that we already know is coming up. For example, like drama club, let's say they have a play going on. They're not going to have to ask permission for that. I mean, they're drama club.
Right.
But yes, in a sense, yes. We've had people that announce things that we didn't even know we were going to announce, and we're not appropriate, and we'll just pull them aside after and be like, that's not acceptable. So then that's why the officers are there from Student Senate, to make sure and keep everything in order in those meetings.
With the officers, is there some sort of training that comes along with being an officer?
Oh, I wish there was. Man, the first year I came in here, I had no idea what Student Senate was, and I ran for vice president. Gosh, poor Linda, she's our advisor. The only thing we get as training, I guess, would be a retreat right before we start, and that's just to get together as teamwork. Okay. And honestly, a lot of it is just your advisor. Like, I can't even say, they're the ones that guide you through the path, at least I know for me it is like that. When I first came into Student Senate, I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what I was getting into, the responsibility or the accountability which you were talking about. I had no idea. But thank goodness for our advisors, because they're able to, say, hey, I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but I suggest you don't do that because this is what's happened in the past. And it's pretty much just trial and error.
So again, if I'm a member of another student organization, let's say I am the treasurer, and I'm not really sure what that means, what that looks like. Can then the treasurer from Student Senate, is that person able to kind of guide me through that process?
Absolutely. I mean, they are. I think the main problem is that students don't always look for the resources, but they're there. And I think that's the case in almost anything, right?
Right.
But it's true. I mean, even right now, we have elections going on within the Student Senate body. And, I mean, the people that are interested and they're wanting to run for president this year, they're already starting to shadow me, and they're already starting to ask questions. Okay. And there's some that are running, and they don't care, and they're not doing the research, but at the end, it's going to affect them.
So you talked about maybe doing some research before you try to seek an office. So it's not just something that looks good on paper. Hey, I was involved in Student Senate. It sounds like you're actually taking it seriously, like you're actually trying to learn some life lessons from this experience.
Absolutely. I mean, getting into Student Senate, I didn't realize how many life lessons I would get, as you said, and I just thought it was something that would look good on my transcript or my resume, and it was just something that looked pretty. I was in over my head. That's all I could say, because once I got into it, I'm like, oh, wait, no, this is actual work, Yeah. And you start learning things that you would not learn anywhere else. I mean, leadership skills, how to speak, how to act, how to network, how to, even things that you wouldn't think of, like teamwork. I mean, that's a big thing. And you really do learn all those lessons, and you have to. And if you don't, then you end up leaving. And I know for some cases that has been the case. They didn't expect that to be that much work, and then they end up leaving because it was too much, which I don't blame them. But
so you talked about some leadership training or some teamwork training that you participated in prior to beginning your office. What did that look like? What type of training was that?
Linda, actually, during the summer, she gets us together, and even though you don't start your term till fall, you're already kind of, I guess it's a training season during the summer. And what we do is we get together, she'll give us little packets with leadership and what it means, and then after that, we'll go to a retreat, and what we do is, have you guys heard of Tall Oaks? Yes. It's kind of like a camp thing, and you do a bunch of different obstacles just to get you into the teamwork sense. Because at the end of the day, that is, I think, the heart of having to be in Student Senate, having to work with other people.
So how have you had conflicts within your group that you've had to resolve?
I think that's the case for anything, right? I mean, there's always conflicts. It's not about the conflicts. It's about what you do with them and how you fix them. man, you can't have conflicts and leave it. You have to fix them. And I think my team is great because they've done a great job about whenever we have something going on, we'll put it on the table, and it doesn't matter how hard it is to talk about it, we have to, because there is no way we can work without having everything fixed.
So do you brainstorm those? I'm thinking about, like, conflict resolution, where you brainstorm some solutions and then you evaluate those solutions to determine, which ones are even feasible, and then try to come to a consensus? Or is there one person who normally ends up saying, nah, we're just going to do it this way?
Well, that might be me. Unfortunately, I'm a very confrontationalist kind of person.
Okay.
And I guess being the student senate president, you're kind of expected to guide it. So if I see people, because I think no one really wants to have a conflict, and if you have a conflict, you just want to let it go.
Right.
But it's our team, and I just can't stand to see it torn up. So whenever there's a conflict, I'll just bring it to the table, and I'm like, okay, you guys, we need to talk about this. What is going on?
Right.
Just talk it out. I think that's the best way. It's just saying what's on your mind and saying it the right way.
Has that been successful?
Yes. I mean, I think it has. I hope it has. I'll have to ask my team members.
Well, they're still there, still coming to meetings. So.
Yeah.
That is good. I'm excited about the things that you all are doing, and I think really because you are taking it seriously, because you are looking at this as an opportunity to learn some skills that you can take with you beyond this campus. And I think that is so important as students, because it brings in a whole nother element outside of academics, which I think is important.
And I think more than that, I know at least for me, before you're involved, you don't feel any responsibility to the campus. But at least for me, and I know for most of the officers and most of the people that get involved, once you do, you feel a certain accountability towards it. And you realize that if you don't do it, no one's going to do it. And so you have to stand up and do something about it, because if you don't, nothing's going to change.
Okay. I agree. I like that. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, Lesley's going to give us a little more information about Student Senate, some of the activities that they've done, and some of the reasons for her own personal involvement. So join us in a few minutes.
They said heroin would be the best high I ever had.
Sweetheart? Hey, sweetie? Listen to me.
They said heroin would be the best high I ever had. They lied. Find out the truth about heroin. drugfreeworld.org.
Every day, thousands of people are diagnosed with macular degeneration, a disabling eye disease that leads to severe vision loss. As a scientist conducting research for the American Health Assistance Foundation, I want you to know that there is hope that a cure and new treatments for macular degeneration will soon be found, but only if we can continue our groundbreaking research. Learn about my research. Call 1-800-437-2423 or visit ahaf.org for free publications on eye disease.
Welcome back to Focal Point. I'm here again with Lesley from Student Senate here on our campus, and Lesley's going to continue talking to us about some of the things that Student Senate has been involved in over the years. So I know you all have a packed calendar, and I've worked with Linda Sutton, and she brings in a calendar, and you all are planned out for the next 3 semesters and sometimes further than that. So tell me about some of the activities that you all facilitate on campus.
Yes, and just so you know, we're pretty much on the calendar for 2 years ahead of time, so that's crazy, right? But, well, we have the events for the campus, which are I guess you could call the small ones, but they take actually a lot of work.
Right.
And what we do is, like Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, we just try to have something for the students, because at the end of the day, we are there for the students and try to make, life a little easier in campus.
Right.
Beside that, there's a lot that goes into getting the boys heard, which we talked about before. When something's going on, we are the ones that have to go and take the responsibility to bring it to the right people and not just let it be, but make sure something is going on and following up with it.
Right.
That's another part of Student Senate that we also have to work on. Oh man, like the one I think off the top of my head is MIMAS. Before we used to have another deli, and we had a couple concerns about it, and we had to be the ones to push that through, and it wasn't even necessarily our idea to do it, but because we are the voice for Student Senate, we had to make sure that that voice that was said, we had to go ahead and push it through. So that's some of the stuff we do. Whenever someone needs a voice, where there are student inputs, we have to be there.
And you mentioned the deli. We obviously have evening students here on campus. Were you all instrumental in that decision?
Oh man, yes, that was a lot of work.
Okay. And so walk me through that process.
Okay, well, MIMAS came, first of all, we had students that have been saying, well, we're evening students and we don't get food.
Right.
And it's usually not a nice complaint either. It's like, change it, So we're like, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. So we went to Lorraine, which is the owner of MIMAS, and she was thinking the exact same thing. She just didn't know how exactly it would work or how it could happen or if it would be a good sales thing. Because at the end of the day, they are trying to get money. I mean, they are a business. So they didn't know exactly how it would work. And so we went ahead, and each officer, the 6 officers of us, went to approximately 5 classrooms. So that's a good amount of students in the evening. And we did a survey which asked questions such as, would you go? How much would you be willing to pay? What would you want to see in the deli? And they answered that survey. And then after that, we compiled all the information together. We got graphs. We made a summary out of it and gave it to Lorraine. And then Lorraine saw it, and she's like, yeah, I think according to this, it would be a good business idea to go ahead and open it in the evening. And that's how they ended up opening till now. So
that is very good. So it wasn't just, and this is one of my pet peeves, I think this is a good idea, or I'm sure students would like that. You actually went out and did the research.
And it's like that for everything we do. We can't, I think that if we want to be taken seriously, we have to act serious. And just saying, oh, Lauren, I think that's a good idea. I've heard a couple students say it. That's not enough, because it might have just been a group of 3 students saying they want the deli open. And if only those 3 students are going to go to eat at MIMAS, it's not going to be worth it for Lorraine. So it's something that we have to be cautious about too.
So that was a very positive experience for students.
And that was a good learning thing for us as well, because you have to know to listen to the students, but you also have to know to make sure you listen to everyone, not just a couple of students, because that's a mistake that you can make as well.
And you've mentioned that before in some of the stories that you've related about, students have issues, so they have that voice and they bring those concerns to you, but you all have the understanding that you are not going to be able to accommodate them in every situation, because there are some times when it may not be feasible. So, had you done your research with this incident with MIMAS, maybe only 5 students really wanted to have evening service, and so then it would not have made sense to keep the deli open.
And I think that happens many times. We try to do our best to try to listen to the students and try to accommodate them, but at times it's just not doable. And we don't always understand that we're not supposed to go. We just push and see where we hit the brick wall, and we're like, okay, this is as far as we can get. And then we come back and say, hey, this is what we did, and this is as far as we can do. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's all we can do, just try our best.
So back to some of the other events that you all have done. Valentine's Day. Just had your Valentine's Day celebration. Tell me about some of the activities that you facilitated.
Well, here I can tell about Valentine's Day. Well, what we usually do is, for most of the events like Valentine's Day, we'll have a novelty for students, which this year I think we had ice cream for everyone.
Okay.
We went ahead and we had to, just for one event, this is how much work it takes, so you guys get an idea. Back in the office, we have to plan the decorations. How are we going to decorate? Because I don't know if you walked by it, but it was really nice, if I do say so myself. And that day, we just wanted everything red with lights, and we turned off the lights and had candles, and it was nice. So we have to take care of the decoration. We have to take care of food, do we want food there or not? And if we do, how are we going to provide it? That day we had the ice creams. We had to go and buy the ice cream, buy the toppings, bring that back. We had to make sure we had assigned people to serve the ice cream.
Okay.
We also had a kissing booth this year, which wasn't an actual kissing booth.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell me about that.
It was a tattoo kissing booth. So what we did is people would go and they'd get a tattoo kiss, And then they had to write in a Post-it note who they wish that kiss was from and put it on the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have to come up with ideas like
Right.
that. And then we had, our novelty that year was laser light graffiti.
I saw those. Explain that process, because that
Okay.
was kind of cool.
Okay, you go into a tent, and it's like a closed light tent.
Mm-hmm.
And they give you these lights, like you just have lights, you know, you have weird lighting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You go in, and they take a picture of you. And then you have about 10 seconds to move your lights in whatever way you want.
Okay.
And so when you move your lights, let's say you move it into a heart, it will actually stay there.
Wow.
So once the picture comes out, you have the picture you originally took when you were smiling and looking good, and then the picture you had all the drawings with put together. It sounds confusing, but it's actually really neat.
Yeah.
And so that was our Valentine's Day. But it's hard work because you have to bring all these ideas and build it from the ground up. And each year it's a little different because the officers choose to trick it a little.
Right.
So you need creative input. You need, real input too, because if they're like, yeah, I can't tell you how many times ideas have been shut down because they're just way out there. But, you always need that person.
But it's a good learning process, though, because
Yeah.
obviously you don't decide today that you are going to have an all-campus event 3 days from now.
Oh, no.
Because there's so much more planning. So what have you learned about
no.
the planning process? Because that does happen. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. We just have to do these 5 things. But you all are learning that there's a lot involved in that. What does that process look like, and how far in advance do you start planning?
It depends. Sometimes, I remember when we finished Valentine's Day, I think we had like a week for Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
And we had been planning Mardi Gras a couple months before already. However, we had not been able to focus on it because we were on Valentine's Day, so we had to scrunch everything in a week, which was the most terrible thing that has ever happened to us. Because usually it takes about a month or two to go ahead and start planning for every event. It's not easy. You'll definitely learn that. And being in Student Senate, it taught us how to plan and how to plan effectively.
Right. So it sounds like you're learning some project management skills, because you do have to be able to plan those. Does that translate at all to your academic work here?
In a way, it's helped me be more responsible with my classes. I think that when you get really involved, you want to make sure you're doing okay in all your areas. You don't want to go ahead and plan this huge party if you know you're failing in calculus.
Right.
So you got to make sure you're doing fun on that, and it gives you more time management. That's the word I'm looking at. It helps you time manage. And before, if you're not doing anything, you're like, oh, I have time to do homework. And then you wait 10 minutes before, and you're like, okay, I'll start my homework now. That can't happen.
Right.
You have to be responsible, and you have to time manage, and it really helps you be a better person.
Okay. Tell me why you got involved with Student Senate.
Why? Well, originally, it was not the good reason.
It's okay.
It was just for the resume. However, considering I've been here 2 years, I had to stick for other reasons,
Right.
and that is, it sounds cheesy, but I fell in love with the school. I really did.
Good.
And I think anyone that gets involved falls in love with it. And I think all the officers that have come back is because they fall in love with doing what they do, which is helping Kansas City, Kansas Community College be a better place. And I know it sounds cheesy, but you do. You fall into it. You really want to help. And just sitting on the sidelines and seeing other people change the school to be better, and just knowing that you're not doing anything, it's a terrible feeling. So you come back and you keep working because you want to be part of a greater plan.
So how does that make you feel when you've had someone or students bring you problems that they're having, and you as part of Student Senate have been able to help resolve those problems? How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's the best feeling in the world. It is the best feeling in the world to help people. Like, I know it sounds like it might not even be true, but it's so true because it gives you meaning, it gives you purpose for being here at the school, because many students just come here, have their classes, and leave out.
Right.
But what good is that? You're not helping anyone, you're helping yourself, but I'm doing that as well. I'm helping myself with my classes, but there's more you can do. And so it's really fulfilling, I think, for all the officers to be able to help with a greater thing. And it might be something small, because, come on, changing the deli, that wasn't a big thing. Just change the way you eat. But it's the fact that you know that at least you're doing something.
Right.
And that is a really fulfilling, good feeling to know you're helping out.
So when you leave our campus, when you graduate from here, how likely are you to continue to be involved in student activities when you go to a 4-year institution?
I've thought about it, and considering I'm going to engineering school next semester,
good for you.
I think I have to see how hard that is first. But yes, I would absolutely love to be involved. It is, like I said, the best feeling when you're doing something. But again, I'll have to weigh my options and see how much work I have in my hands, because it is a lot of work.
Right.
And right now, I'm fortunate to have the time to be able to give it to the school.
So going into engineering, and that I commend you for that.
Thank you.
What are some things that you've learned through your experiences here, through being involved and having to balance your coursework with Student Senate? Because like you said, when you take on an active role in a student organization, that's a lot. That can be very time consuming. So what have you learned about balance, I guess, with that organization and with academics and your home life? How has that helped you to keep all of those things going at the same time?
Well, the first thing I've learned is that it's doable.
Okay.
Because many students think that they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you set your mind to anything, you can do it. And that's something that I did not have before I got into Student Senate. I thought, oh man, this is just too much work. I can't do this. I have work and church and school. And then now I have Student Senate, and I have to work to manage it all. Mm-hmm. And I can see that if you put your mind to it, it's doable. Anything is doable. So that's something that Student Senate has really taught me, that if you put your mind to it, it's possible. And
I really see that as a life lesson.
Yes.
It's not realistic to expect, once you graduate from college, you're not just going to have your job. And that's the only thing that you will have a job, and you will have your personal life, and hopefully you will have social events, and you are going to have to balance those things. So this really seems like it has been a learning experience.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you have to learn those life lessons, and I'm just grateful that I've learned them now, and I've been able to balance all areas of my life through Student Senate, and it has taught me not just how to balance it, but how to do it right.
So if you had 30 seconds, I'm a student, I'm in the hallway with you, you pass me in 30 seconds, why should I join? Why should I become involved in a student organization?
Oh my gosh, that is a terrible question. It's a good question, it's just a hard question. If you had 30 seconds, if I had to say to join, and they were actually interested, because if they're not, then I'm just wasting my time. But if they were interested, the main reason that I would tell them to join Student Senate was to be a better person. It helps you be a better person.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy that you are having a positive experience here.
Yes, absolutely. I love the school.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us today. And thank you all for joining us on another edition of Focal Point. And we'll see you next time.